This is Andrew Hagan. I just wanted to provide my family and friends with a little update on Hurricane Ian as of Monday, September 26th at 7:30 p.m. This is based on information from NHC's 5 p.m. advisory, and I just wanted to state a couple things before we get started. Today is my day off, so I'm basically doing this to update my family and friends on the latest info about Hurricane Ian. And I want to say that I'm not doing this in any official capacity with my job, and I'm not representing NOAA or the National Hurricane Center. I really just wanted to do this to give my family and friends a little update. So as of 5 p.m. Monday, September 26th, Hurricane Ian had strengthened now to a Category 2 with maximum sustained winds of 100 miles per hour. You could see those really nice bands. I'm getting a lot better organized on the satellite imagery. It's centered just to the south of western Cuba over there. Taking a look at the forecast track, there's a lot of important information I put on this slide. But first, let's turn our attention to the left. You can see that the forecast track, it's supposed to approach the coast of west central Florida as we go into late Wednesday and early Thursday. But one important thing to note is that it's forecast to slow down significantly, as you can see over here. And for those of you who aren't familiar with this type of graphic, M means has to do with the intensity forecast. That's when the National Hurricane Center is forecasting it to be a major hurricane, which means Category 3 or higher. So it's forecast to strengthen to a Category 3 when it's near western Cuba, and then even to a Category 4 as it passes to the west of Key West, Florida. Now there is going to be some strong wind shear in the northern Gulf of Mexico, so as it makes its way farther north, we do expect it to weaken even before it reaches the coastline, down from a Category 3 down to a Category 2 or maybe even a Category 1. But the complicating factor is, it's not a perfect science, hurricane forecasting. And so if it happens to take a track a little bit off to the east and say it hits Fort Myers or Sarasota, then it could still be a major hurricane when it makes landfall because it wouldn't have reached the stronger wind shear to the north to help tear the hurricane apart. So there's a lot of complicated factors in here. But I want to review for you what is in effect as of 5 p.m. on Monday. We have a hurricane warning in red that has been issued from Englewood to Anclote River, which is on the west coast of Florida, which includes Tampa Bay. Also, the Dry Tortugas is under the hurricane warning. In dark blue, we have a tropical storm warning from the lower Florida Keys from the 7 Mile Bridge westward, as well as the southwest coast of Florida, including places like Naples and Fort Myers, from Flamingo to Englewood. We also have a hurricane watch in the pink to the near the Big Bends of Florida area, north of the Anclote River to the Swanee River. And also Bonita Beach to Englewood is also in the hurricane watch. And then in yellow, we have tropical storm watch. So the hurricane warning means that hurricane conditions are expected somewhere in the warning area within the next 36 hours. And the tropical storm warning means that tropical storm conditions are expected within that time frame. Now, watch is usually issued about 48 hours in advance. So the reason why these areas in light pink are not a hurricane warning is because those winds aren't expected to start until later on this week. So there's a lot of factors here. And so right now, these warnings are only talking about the winds. There's also going to be important things to know about storm surge and rainfall. So I'm going to discuss that in just a moment. There's a storm surge warning in effect where you see the dark pink from the Anclote River southward all the way to Flamingo. So the entire southwest coast of Florida, Naples, Fort Myers, Cape Coral, Tampa, St. Petersburg, Tampa Bay, Clearwater Beach, are all under a storm surge warning. Now, I expect that storm surge warning to be extended northward as we go into this evening and tonight. But certainly by the time you wake up tomorrow, they'll probably extend the storm surge warning up through Cedar Key to the Big Bend of Florida. Right now, that's a storm surge watch because we don't expect the dangerous surge within the next 36 hours. Also, on the northeast coast of Florida, there's a storm surge watch. So I'm going to talk about the wind threat for the next several slides, and then after that I'll talk more about rain and storm surge. But there's a difference between a deterministic forecast and a probabilistic forecast. So first, I'm going to be showing you the deterministic forecast, which is the most likely scenario for the extent of winds and timing. Now, in the dark blue, we have the lower half of tropical storm force from 39 to 57 miles an hour. In the yellow, we have the upper half of tropical storm force. That means sustained winds of 58 to 73 miles per hour. And in red are the sustained winds of hurricane force. Now, this is the forecast for 2 p.m. Tuesday. But as we go forward in time, you're going to see the timing of some of these. Now remember, this is not like the gospel because if the storm were to wiggle more to the right than this forecast, it could bring tropical storm force winds further east. And so this is the most likely scenario at this time. 5 a.m. Wednesday, you're going to be seeing those sustained winds of 39 miles per hour already affecting Naples, Fort Myers, Sarasota, and just starting in Tampa Bay by the time you wake up on Wednesday. But 6 hours later, as we look at 11 p.m. Wednesday, those 58 to 73 mile per hour winds have now reached the coast in the Sarasota area south of Sarasota. The conditions are continuing to go downhill in the Tampa Bay area, but you can see again, those winds are staying off to the west of Miami-Fort Lauderdale. So the most likely scenario for the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area is that winds will be 25 to 30, gusting to 35 miles an hour, below tropical storm strength on Wednesday. But there is still a small chance that tropical storm force winds could occur up to 40 or 45, even in the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area. Now, by 5 p.m. on Wednesday, the storm continues to inch its way, and you have in yellow the strong tropical storm. So sustained winds between 58 and 73 have moved up to Clearwater, and they're pushing their way inland here to the north of Fort Myers all the way to Clearwater. 6 hours later, as we zoom in, you can see the hurricane force winds are now starting in Siesta Key and in St. Petersburg. We have hurricane force winds at that time, and the tropical storm force winds may be extending all the way to the east coast of Florida in areas such as Melbourne, from Vero Beach northward to Cape Canaveral and Orlando. A lot of northern and central Florida will be experiencing tropical storm force winds on Wednesday night. By 8 a.m. Thursday, look how slow moving this hurricane is. Hurricane force winds will still be occurring in Tampa, St. Petersburg, and Clearwater up to Palm Harbor and Denali. By 2 p.m. Thursday, hurricane force winds will still be occurring. But one thing to point out is that we do expect the hurricane to be weakening. The maximum sustained winds of the hurricane by 2 p.m. Thursday will be down to an 85 mile an hour category 1, at least according to this deterministic forecast, if the forecast happens to be perfect, which never is exactly perfect. So everywhere in red at this time, somewhere between 75 and 85 miles per hour, but still you got to be hunkering down during any sustained winds that are even yellow or higher. You can't go outside during that. It's way too dangerous. So again, this is the cumulative, all the times added up, deterministic forecast zoomed into the Tampa Bay area. You see that St. Petersburg, Clearwater, Tampa, they're all expected to get hurricane force winds with the most likely scenario. Sarasota as well. And even if you're close to this, you have a high enough chance of receiving hurricane force winds that you better prepare for them. So this is the realistic worst case scenario. So before I was showing you the deterministic most likely, this is the realistic worst case. So in the worst case, yes, Miami-Fort Lauderdale could receive the lower part of tropical storm force winds. Do I think that's likely? Probably not. But basically these colors are expanded out further for the realistic worst case at any given point. This wind, I like the HTI, which is called the Hurricane Threats and Impacts Graphic. So again, we're still talking about wind, and this is again a realistic worst case scenario graphic. So this is showing that everywhere in purple, which includes the whole Tampa Bay area, Sarasota, basically areas from like north of Fort Myers, have at least a 10% chance of receiving major hurricane winds of 110 miles an hour or greater. So everyone in purple and even in red needs to take this storm extremely seriously. Many people will probably actually only experience winds that are about equal to one color lower than this. But again, in the realistic worst case scenario, winds of this magnitude are possible. In the red, 74 to 110 miles an hour. In the orange, strong tropical storm, and in the yellow, low end tropical storm. So people really need to be making preparations to take in all their loose items in the areas that are expected to receive strong winds. Okay, so the storm surge threat here is, we already touched on storm surge a little bit, but right now the Tampa Bay area is, the realistic worst case scenario is for greater than 9 feet above ground. And really on the East Coast from Homestead, Miami, all the way up to Cape Canaveral, we don't expect any significant storm surge, only up to 1 foot, which doesn't produce any significant impacts. Significant impacts occur in orange or greater. So, and once you get to red, you're talking about super life-threatening potential. So you really need to take evacuation orders seriously, basically from Naples northward to the Big Bend of Florida. If you live right on a barrier island or an area that's susceptible to storm surge is historically the deadliest hazard associated with tropical cyclones. Remember, 85 to 90% of all hurricane deaths occur due to water, not due to wind. And a large portion of those are due to storm surge along the coast. That's why we evacuate for storm surge. So a little bit of a friendlier graphic. The water along the coast is expected to rise by 5 to 10 feet. And there is potential for storm surge, I should say, 5 to 10 feet. Now, it's really going to be dependent on exactly where that eye tracks. But by the time you know exactly where the storm is going to go, it's already too late. Like, you have to make the preparations of where you're going to be at the latest by Tuesday. Tuesday is your last chance to prepare your house and to decide where you're going to ride out the storm. And by Tuesday night when you go to sleep, you should already be at that location, because by the time you wake up Wednesday on the west central coast of Florida, it's already going to be too late and too dangerous to be traveling around. So you need to have a lot of food and water in your house, because you're going to have to hunker down for, in some cases, potentially up to 72 hours. Because at least 48 hours, the tropical storm force winds at these points could last for up to 48 hours or longer, given the slow motion of the storm. Then if you have electricity or if there are trees blocking the road, you might not be able to get out of your neighborhood for another couple days. That's why I really strongly recommend people in the Tampa Bay area or anywhere along the west coast of Florida, west central Florida, this area I'm circling, to really make a lot of preparations tomorrow on Tuesday and to really get ready for the storm. Okay, the flooding rain threat. All of my Miami and Broward people have been waiting for. There's going to be a lot of rain. It's going to be very dangerous to drive on the roads. Basically, everywhere in red has a high risk of flooding from heavy rain associated with the storm. In South Florida, we could get 6 to 8 inches, maybe some isolated areas over 10 inches in total through the next 72 hours. I think that Tuesday and Wednesday are going to be the rainiest days for the Miami-Fort Lauderdale area. And it's a little bit too early to tell how much rain is still going to be left on Thursday. There could still be a lot of rain on Thursday, but hopefully by Friday, we'll be back to a normal, just a normal South Florida summer day. That's pretty much all I have. Thanks for watching.